Thank you, Jen Fitzgerald. This is a fun night. Under our district's coherent governance model, the school board's primary role is to develop a clear vision and mission that defines the desired outcomes for our students, known as results. This involves identifying what we want students to know and be able to do, and how we measure their progress toward these goals. So tonight we have an opportunity to celebrate our mission in action. Each spring, a senior from Issaquah High School, Liberty High School, Skyline, and Gibson Eck is nominated to attend a board meeting and extend a special invitation to our board for their upcoming June commencement ceremonies. In alignment with the district's mission and to personalize the invitation, staff from each school have nominated a senior who exemplifies one of the district's results, formerly known as ENDS, which will be posted behind me as we kind of move through here. After they share a brief statement about, after they're introduced, they'll share a brief statement about their post-high school paths. So first up, from Skyline, Risha Anamalo. Risha, come on up. This is what her nominator had to say. Risha has been an integral part of Skyline ASB for the past 4 years. As senior class president, she has been deeply dedicated to her classmates, striving to make their high school experience enjoyable and memorable. Her efforts of advocacy and thoughtfully representing student voice have helped shape a strong sense of community within the Skyline class of 2025, ensuring that these years will be cherished for a lifetime.
Hi, I'm Risha Anamolu, and after high school, I'm currently planning on attending Indiana University at the Kelley School of Business, and I am planning on majoring in information systems. Thank you.
Next up from Gibson Eck, representing results 2, part 2, Hava Alcorn. Come on up, Hava. Hava has been a leader at Gibson Eck since she stepped foot on campus as a freshman. She is a deep thinker who listens to understand and acts with empathy. Hava has helped to restructure our school ASB to better meet the needs of our unique campus. She's been a student rep for the school board since her junior year. With a passion for education policy, Hava continues impactful work on school district projects through her internship with Marcel Hauser, the school district senior advisor and strategist. Hava?
Hello. After high school, I will be leaving for 18 months in January to serve a religious mission. And when I get back, I will be going to BYU, Idaho to most likely study public policy and administration.
And next from Issaquah High School, representing results 3, civic engagement, Matthew Fisher. Matthew is nominated due to his outstanding leadership, commitment to sustainability, and deep involvement in civic life, both at the school and in the district level. As ASB president, a student representative on the district's bond committee, and a key advocate for sustainable initiatives like water bottle filling stations, Matthew has consistently demonstrated the ability to engage respectfully and effectively with a wide range of stakeholders, including peers, administrators, and community leaders. His efforts align closely with the district's civic engagement criterion, which emphasizes informed participation, ethical leadership, and collaborative problem solving for the common good. Matthew's kindness, resilience, and drive to serve others embody the spirit of responsible and impactful citizenship that the school district seeks to foster.
Hi, my name is Matthew Fisher. I've had the privilege of being able to work with the school board on a lot of things that were mentioned in the introduction. But in post-high school plans in college, I'm planning to attend the University of Washington to study environmental engineering to hopefully continue being able to inspire a sustainable future in our local area.
And our last nominee is from Liberty High School, results 4, come on up, Gregory Shine. Gregory was nominated due to his outstanding qualities both inside and outside of the classroom. Gregory is an active and dedicated member of FCCLA, always bringing a positive attitude and strong leadership skills to every project. He recently attended the state competition and won the silver state finalist in the job interview category. Congratulations. Gregory consistently shows empathy toward his peers, offering support and kindness to anyone in need. He's never afraid to take on challenges or difficult tasks with a can-do attitude. He approaches every situation with a growth mindset, always looking for constructive feedback. Gregory is a fierce advocate for others, standing up when witnessing any form of injustice, including racist or inappropriate behavior, and speaking out to ensure that all students feel safe and valued. Gregory embodies the values of respect, resilience, leadership, making him an exemplary role model for his peers.
All right, thank you. Hi, I'm Grady Shine. As I said, I'm a senior from Liberty High School. I'm really thankful again for the Issaquah School District 411 for inviting me to this today. And as for my post-high school plans, I plan on attending Bellevue College to finish my required courses, and then I want to go to a college after to pursue my passion in film, voice acting, and storytelling. Thank you.
And then Gregory.
On behalf of the 2025 ISD senior classes and my fellow nominees, it is my honor to invite you to our commencement ceremonies.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It is a privilege to have you come and share with us. And I can see things going on over there, so I wanted to find out. Okay, but thank you so much. We are thankful for the invitation, and we will determine which one of us is going to speak at each of your high school graduations. Did we want to do that now or at a later time? Well, we can do that now. So I have on the first one I have on the list is Issaquah High School. And Harlan Gallinger. Okay. And then at Skyline.
I would like to take that one.
That was my
Can you hear me?
recollection.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate it.
Liberty. I think I said I was really looking forward to doing that. I've done Gibson Neck a ton of times. So it's been a while. And then Gibson Neck.
I will happily do Gibson Neck.
Great. Okay, so that's going to be your speakers, and we look forward to attending your commencement. And it's always that word is beginning, so it will be the beginning of the next steps for you. So thank you so much for coming today. Okay, next item on, well, a continuation of the public comment is for public input. And let me make sure I read this. Public comment is an opportunity for the board to receive public statements on items not listed on the meeting agenda for possible board action. If you have a point of view for a specific agenda item, such as item 6, monitoring reports result, 3, civic engagement, I'll ask that you hold your comment until that particular agenda item. And if you want to talk about multiple items and that is one of them, you can talk about your other items now and then wait for the time that we have civic engagement to talk about that item. Public comment time is not intended to raise an issue unique to a particular student, staff member, or administrator. Rather, it is your time to provide your insights on issues more generally and of wider concern. As a general rule, the board will not respond to public comment. I ask you to begin your comments by clearly stating your name and your attendance area. Please limit your comments to 2 minutes. We will be using a timer and a buzzer. The board neither endorses nor censors any opinions expressed during public comment. Please keep your comments civil and respectful. Avoid personal attacks on others. In place of applause, you can acknowledge by a speaker by lifting your hands in a waving motion, although we didn't do that with our students because they really rock and we had to applaud them. We will start public comment with those in the room and then go to those whose hands are raised on Zoom. And if you did not sign up for public comment, but are in the room or on Zoom and still want to add something, I'll call on you once we get through those that have signed up. So first I have Chinmay, I don't have, Nagarkar. And I'm sorry for the mispronunciation and the fact that I need my glasses.
You did great. It's okay. So thank you for giving me the opportunity. This is my first time speaking at a school board. I have 2 minutes. I guess it starts now. So again, thank you for organizing these things. I'm here today because I'm deeply concerned about a couple of issues. I want to talk right now about AI and admin overhead. So first, I would like to understand, I'm here as much to learn as to maybe get a comment from you. What is your AI policy regarding AI training for teachers to reduce their workload, to help with lesson planning, to help with personalized education for extra students with extra abilities or students with special needs? Because I believe that if we don't do something about this now, and we continue to work with the mantra of no child left behind, we will end up leaving all children to suffer equally in the process. We need to get on with the tools like Brisk, for instance, that are out there in the market. We need to start experimenting with them and have a policy, which I haven't seen yet, but if there is one, I would like to understand what that looks like. Second, I want to ask what the admin overhead is from the general fund. My understanding it's about 20% or more, about 60% for instruction, the rest for school lunch program and so on. I believe that, again, in this age of automation and AI, we should aim to reduce administration overhead and take those funds and transfer them over to both instruction, teacher training, as well as tools or vendor expenses. So that's my second question and comment. And my final question, I'm out of time. So next time.
And you can always email the board. We do email and it gives us an opportunity to respond or have staff respond to
And
you.
I will come back to the civic engagement later.
Great, thank you. Next, I have Zachary Hines.
Hello? Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, sorry. Hello, I'm Zach Hines. I'm a freshman at Liberty High School. I'm very interested in the student rep program today. This is my first meeting, and in the past couple months, I've learned a lot from this program. I've learned a lot from what Krish has taught me. I first knew nobody at LHS when I first joined. Krish from cross country brought me in and helped me learn more about this program and what it has accomplished. Today, I would like to talk about how the forums that Krish recently set up in the past couple months has helped me find a voice. I believe that these forums and continuing these forums on a bi-weekly or monthly basis will help others find their voice at LHS and other high schools in Issaquah. Additionally, for the student rep program, I believe that it's an amazing program that I would love to be more interested in. And I believe that the showcasing of what this form or program has produced for those at LHS, I believe it's been a massive success throughout my time, or in the past couple weeks. I've seen a lot of people reach out to Krish and say, hey, I want to do this program. I believe that this type of influence has made sure that people understand the opportunities that they are given to. And I believe in continuing this and even showcasing what this program has to offer will be a massive success in long term. I would just like to say I'm very excited for the opportunity to speak. Originally, 10 minutes ago, I had no idea what I was going to talk about, but now I feel like I can be a part of Issaquah and be heard in a different way. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any hands raised on Zoom? And wanted to open up if there was anyone else in the room that wanted to provide public input. Okay, seeing none, thank you so much. We do appreciate hearing from students, parents, and community members about our programs and the needs therein. Next is the approval of the consent agenda. So I will open it to a motion.
I move the consent agenda be approved as presented.
Second.
Seeing a motion and second, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? The ayes have it. Next is the establishment of the regular agenda. And just to be clear, our online abilities will end at 10 p.m. So I want to make sure that there's nothing added to the regular agenda.
There's nothing added to the regular agenda, and I hope we can meet that technology cutoff point.
Well, it's an open public meeting and part of that is open to the public virtually. So we will be done before 10. Next item is a report out of our day on the Hill. So last Monday, it seems, has it only been since last Monday? Last Monday, the board and 4 of our students attended, or actually went down to Olympia and met with a number of our legislators. So I wanted to give an opportunity first for the students to share a little bit about their experience and then to the board. So Krish, would you like to start?
Sure. Thank you so much. First of all, when we went down there, I was expecting, to kind of listen in on the conversation. So when I was told by the board that I was going to be speaking, I was like, first of all, what? And so it was a big jump, but the experience was overall really positive. I enjoyed it a lot, getting to speak with my local representatives and seeing that they shared the same passion and concerns on some issues we brought up. The topic I spoke about was special education. And so I was able to relay a personal story, one about a bunny, which I have here today with me. And so seeing that a lot of legislators connected with me about this and, agreed with me that about special education, the funding required across the state was extremely important. One of the biggest takeaways and things I loved the most was actually Senator Ramos coming out after. We met with him once, and then he came to us right as we were about to leave and gave us an update. And so that really that opened my eyes because initially I thought, I was like, the government moves pretty slowly, but seeing, how quickly it came back to us, it really meant a lot. So it was an overall positive experience that I enjoyed a lot. So thank you so much for allowing me to attend.
Hi. I think there was so much to take away from our day on the Hill. It was such a wonderful, unique experience that I wish all of the reps got to do. It was so unfortunate that everybody didn't get to go. Because man, was it so wonderful. I got to speak about my own personal experience. I got to hear my fellow reps do some amazing public speaking to the reps that took their time for us, which, man, isn't that a wonderful thing to be able to make an impact on your community, not even just at this scale, but on an even bigger scale. And I think I have some doubts personally about like how much I can really do. And so it was so wonderful to see that my voice matters, and it was an important takeaway. And I come back from that day on the Hill with a renewed kind of enjoyment for my role and just being here, and feel like I'm able to make a difference if I truly put my heart to it. And I hope that was everything that we all expected it to be, because it certainly was for me.
I think I definitely echo what my fellow student representatives, Krish and Milo, said. I think the experience, it really emphasized how important our role is, and just seeing how much our voice matters, and seeing our representatives and senators take into account what we were saying, and actually even act on it immediately, like what Krish was saying. Like Senator Ramos, he came back to us right away, looking at the information we were providing him, and to know that what we say might actually contribute to some policy changes. Like I was speaking on the majority vote, and then also special education. Like those are such important issues, and to be able to advocate for those at a larger scale just meant so much. And I'm so grateful that we were able to be there at Day on the Hill. Thank you for that.
Right. Thank you. And I think there were some of my takeaways was helping the students be better prepared. So I love the fact that we got an opportunity early to have you go through what you were going to say. So it kind of broke the ice on that and helped you with your flow. I think next year, one of the things I realized is we need to probably be better at making sure you know who you're talking to, so that you know that, by the way, Representative Callan was a former school board member here. And I'm about to have a coughing fit. So I will, whichever.
It was a great day. I just first of all want to thank our students. You guys did a great job. You really did. You're incredibly well-spoken, poised. The legislators are very engaged with you folks. So you did a fantastic job. And I think, also, Milo, to the point you were making, I really do believe that the legislators listen to the stories that you have to say, and they absorb that. The stories and personal reflections are what really register with our legislators, because they need that information. They need to know, what's going on in their community. So overall, I thought you guys did a great job. I did just want to mention one other thing too. It was our first opportunity to have interaction with Representative Zahn from Bellevue in the 41st. And I was very thankful for her time. She seemed incredibly engaged as well, interested in education issues. Clearly she's learning, because she was just recently appointed to the role. And I was thankful for the time that we had with her. I thought that was a good interaction. And then overall, we're very fortunate that we have universal support amongst our legislators for educational funding issues in particular. And now we're just going to be in the position of waiting to see what levels of funding we're going to receive. But I'm still very optimistic that we're going to see some good outcomes out of this session.
So I think a couple things were important. I think previously we've done a different format of the Day on the Hill, which is being there when every other set of school directors in the state are there. And there's kind of this long line of everyone with their talking points. So I was actually really happy for this version to have been on a day that was separate from that. I think the amount of focus and attention went up because of that. So I think that format, if we are choosing going forward, legislative rep, I think that was a very positive approach. I think, and because of that, we were able to fit in such a wide variety of people, cover so many of the folks who represent us at the state level in different roles, all in a fairly short period of time. I think we started at 8 and I was in my car by like 11:30, having spoken to a number of people. So I just think it was a really great use of time. I think for our student reps, who were fabulous, hopefully the lesson you took away is there's a lot you can communicate in a very short period of time, while still communicating the topic you would prep for, but also sharing about you and your experience and making a genuine connection. And so, I think Senator Wellman kind of connecting Deshita with you about your desire to go into business, right? These are people who've had careers and made lots of choices. So it gives you guys a real insight into potential, which I think is really important. And I think the other thing maybe I'd say about the student reps is I think you guys did a really nice job of your topics building on each other, and that you got even better at that as the day went on, of sort of realizing how to draw a thread through even though you were covering 3 or 4 different topics, making nice and seemingly quite smooth connection points between, well, why does it matter what the percentage of approval for a bond is? How does that tie to how we use other funds within the districts, maybe special education? What does that mean for some of the legislation that was moving quite quickly about property use? And so hopefully that's something that you guys take with you, is it really only takes a short period of time to both connect human to human, but also to land your point. So I thought it was my favorite Day on the Hill.
Thank you. Director Coyne, I know you're on the screen, but I don't want to miss you.
Well, thank you. It was great to hear all of the comments, particularly the students' experiences. I unfortunately was not able to make it, but I think being there obviously is impactful, and spending that time face-to-face with our elected officials. And I think they enjoy hearing from students. And I think that It's an impactful message that we send. And I think the idea of actually having this separate from the coordinated, day on the Hill with all the other districts is an interesting idea. I would agree. Even though I couldn't go last Monday, I think it would be effective to think about doing that going forward. I can see that it would give us more opportunity in a short amount of time, because I know when I did attend last year, it was a longer day, and it sounds to me like we probably had fewer conversations. So I think that that's an interesting concept to think about going forward. So thank you.
Superintendent.
Great. I want to say thank you to our student representatives who joined. We also got some quality car time to connect and chat about all things. And I want to say thank you to Emily Lee here for coordinating all those meetings, because they did line up, as Director Malling said, very nicely in a compact manner, with also some room, right, to flex as well. So thank you, Emily, for the logistical support, and to Marcel Hauser and Martin Turney for their backup support as well, not only as transportation providers, but also as support to the students and to the board as needed. So it was a great day, and I agree. I like detethering it from all the other people going to Day on the Hill, because it gave us, I think, more focus and attention with our legislators.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Next on our agenda is works in progress.
Great, thank you. So I'm going to start off with some public service announcements. So I think what was top of mind for me this morning, certainly and later last night, was weather. And there was a question of what happened yesterday? Because I was expecting some emails to say, hey, the weather turned out to be not as bad. But we do know that there were some significant storm warnings that didn't quite materialize in the same way as our forecasters were expecting. But I do think with the recent bomb cyclone and all that talk around the warning was quite serious, because the weather was unusually warm. And so that did mean that we would potentially have significant thunderstorms. And then there was a forecasting of lightning, hail, and a possible tornado. So, all of the school districts in this area certainly did take that very seriously and heeded that for the sake of both student and staff safety. And we're grateful that it was not as severe, although we did all hear in this area that loud boom in the early afternoon, which I think let people feel like something was coming. So I'm glad it was not as severe, and I'm grateful for that, because that would have, been damaging for potentially property, but also delays and possible service for power. So that's number one. My second public service announcement is about some vaccinations. So we are holding a vaccine clinic for MMR here. I want to thank Laura Carmichael for that, as she coordinates on our behalf. That's going to be next Wednesday, April 2nd, from 7 to 11 a.m. at the first floor in this building. And that's available for staff members and their family members to be invited to sign up. So that's an important thing to say right now, because that's is something that's a public health concern across the country. Some key activities this past week. Over the past week, I've had lots of time with superintendent colleagues, both locally and nationally, as we seek to ensure we are learning from each other about all of the different federal changes, legislative matters locally, and how we all need to continue to lead in our own communities at this moment in time, in partnership with our boards and our staff and our students. On Tuesday night, I joined Director Coyne at the Clark Elementary School PTA meeting, which was well attended by all accounts from the PTA president and the principal, and a good opportunity to continue to get to know our various PTA leaderships on their school site and in their terms. Yesterday, I met with the Secretary of DCYF, the newly appointed Secretary of DCYF, Secretary Sen, while she and her team members visited Echo Glen. Dr. Bailey and I joined Principal Allison Ilgenfritz as she presented the work that she and the team there on site do to provide a high-quality educational experience right now to the current residents in the number of 103. There are so many wins for our students on that campus, especially in support of ensuring that there are strong mechanisms to provide specially designed instruction, as more than 50% of the students on that campus currently have an IEP in place. And just for context, Washington State has 15% of our students in Washington State have an IEP, and Issaquah is just over 10%. So that gives you a context of the needs there. I also met yesterday with newly appointed Issaquah City Council member Kelly Jiang, who actually grew up in Sammamish and now lives in Issaquah. And so she will not be able to join next Monday's engagement with Issaquah's mayor, City Council, and the school board, but is already engaged in asking some great questions. So I know she's looking forward to meeting the school board members and many other members of our team in the future. And then finally, we did have an entrance meeting for the performance audit for special education yesterday. And again, Director Coyne joined that on behalf of the board, but many members of our team, led by Dr. Shereen Carver, were participating. And that was actually an entrance meeting, including all the other districts that were also participating in this performance audit. So I think there's a lot of questions, and it's not something we typically are participating in, but I think that's why it'll be good to continue to report out on that process moving forward. Some key initiatives and efforts of our strategic plan. I will say that the 2025 and 2026 budget development is very top of mind for us right now. It is underway in terms of planning and development, and given the current context of our economic climate, we will not likely be able to do as much as we aspire this year because we have to take a more conservative approach. And so we are adjusting. Our team has been working hard and diligently to think of the ways we can always improve our work. And so I think what we knew and what we were planning for and thinking about going into this calendar year is just going to have to be adjusted and different. So we won't lose sight of those good ideas. In fact, we'll note those as we continue to march through the next set of months, years, so that we don't lose sight of those good ideas. But we know that we have to meet and do our budgeting and the constraints that we currently have and project forward in a way that's fiscally conservative. Our cabinet team conducted another school visit this week at Pacific Cascade Middle School with a focus on supporting our students of color. And I want to thank Elena Sividasan for her leadership in facilitating the professional learning for our cabinet to engage through this lens, and for the principals and assistant principals to engage their staff through that lens as well. A special shout out to Principal Jeff McGowan and Assistant Principal Casey Stuckey for hosting this first site visit through that lens, and really just the entire PCMS community for welcoming us to visit classrooms and see student learning. Hiring is in full swing, and Donna Hood's team in human resources is quite busy. And to highlight some key administrative positions, we have posted an assistant superintendent position, and we'll soon be posting a director position to backfill for the retirement of Kathy Kropp. And as I think we've been talking about quite a bit, both on the board, but also in the community, we are needing to bring an executive level position to our team to bring together the technology and information business aspects of our work and to drive greater cohesion and IT transformation. I think as we heard in the public comment, actually, that IT delivery, as well as the rise of more automation that can help actually humans do our jobs better, more effectively, more efficiently, so that we can better serve students and families. So that is something that is on the radar. This board has been talking quite a bit about that over the past couple of years. And as we do continue to think about innovation. Last night, I want to share that at the spring convening of Digital Promises League of Innovative Schools, which was held in Pennsylvania, I did not go because this was a board meeting week, and we did announce, or it was announced on our behalf, that we will be co-hosting the convening next year, which is likely March of 2026, in partnership with the Kent School District. Digital Promises League of Innovative Schools is a national network of school districts that connects and supports the most forward-thinking leaders in education. So it is it is a recognition of the good work here in Issaquah over time and innovation and forward thinking. And just a huge appreciation to Julia Bamba from our team. And then our partners in Kent include Associate Superintendent Rebecca Kim, who actually is also a parent of students in the district, and Superintendent Israel Vela for their partnership. They did carry the water for us as part of being on site there to make the announcement, and brought some Seattle type things to make the group feel very excited. So it happened to be some Starbucks type things and maybe some pictures of Seahawks as well. So that's great, and we're looking forward to that next year. And then as part of the strategic plan engagement, Marcel Hauser today led a re-engagement session with the PTSA General Counsel, and so you'll hear more a little bit about that. And we also launched the Capital Project Oversight Committee, which you'll also hear a little bit more in a future agenda topic later this evening. And then finally, just I want to focus and close with a couple of items that are happening that are great about our high schools. And so really proud of the work that Sherry Cox does to lead that and all of our high school principals. And so one of the things that is important to note is that the board did recently look at the number of Fs that students have earned first semester, and that actually has dropped year over year. So compared to last year, that has dropped. So we've actually seen an improvement in that area. And specifically at Issaquah High School, they dug deeper into the data and noticed that the number of Fs declined by 19% in biology for students with disabilities, over 10% in history, U.S. history for our BIPOC students, and 36% for multilingual students in U.S. history, and then over 20% in both Algebra 1 and Geometry for our BIPOC students. So those are helpful markers to show, where we're making some progress. At Liberty High School, 38 students participated in the State Theater Festival. The whole theater department won gold honor status, which is the highest rating for the variety of events they produce every year. And many students won individual awards as well. All middle school and high schools have completed the course request process. And so students at Skyline enrolled in AP courses for the first time. And that's a really important note because that's something that the board has been talking about and we're implementing now. And that's fully in action. And there will be a multi-year continued process on that, but we have a starting point. And then Echo Glen, I did share some of the wins there as part of our time on campus yesterday, but there are many more students earning their GEDs, and one student in particular is planning to attend a four-year college university after their time on that campus. And tomorrow night, some Gibson X students will partner with Trout Unlimited, the Snoqualmie Tribe, and Green Issaquah to host a community event. So I think one of our students also won the City of Issaquah Community Environmental Award, and I think her name is Mina June. So I see Milo having a positive reaction over there, but that's always so great to see our students being recognized by other agencies for their leadership on really important topics. So that's it for me, and I wanted to just make sure I got to end with highlighting what's happening in our students and school lives.
Great, thank you. So next on the agenda is capital projects and capital projects oversight committee updates.
Great. I'll just turn it over to Tom, but I wanted to say thank you first and foremost because Tom Mullins, as part of this update, launched the very first committee to provide capital projects oversight. And that set of community members have very different viewpoints within the group, and they come from all different backgrounds of expertise as it relates to construction, design, engineering, and finances and architecture. And they have a wealth of expertise. They're very detailed questions, certainly showed their intellectual capital that they're bringing to our team. And so we much appreciated it. And so the whole team of both finance, capital projects, and communications were there to support and are leaning in. And I'll chime in as needed about what we kind of heard from that, but I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Tom Mullins, Director of Capital Projects. Give you a quick update on capital projects and the Capital Projects Oversight Committee, Superintendent Tower just talked about. We'll review the 2018 critical repairs levy, 22 critical repairs levy. We have some other capital projects going on also in the recap. Critical repairs 2018, we're winding that down and hope to be complete with almost every project closed by the end of the summer. See the statistics there. The 22 capital levy, we are working on, well, here's some of the projects. Here's some of the projects and their status and actual projected completion dates. For the 2018-2022 levy, we're working through. We've got quite a few projects. Most of them are in process. We have one in future project, which is the lead testing in the water that hasn't been touched yet. That's being held until we actually are required to do that testing. Things are going good there. Other projects, we continue to explore options for the new high school. One of the larger general fund projects we're working on, the Beaver Lake Middle School elevator modernization. We also are working through some grant opportunities, and we've been awarded an OSPI per square foot to help pay for investment grade audits. at the Skyline High School and Liberty High School. And then we also received a Department of Commerce grant for some work for the Clean Buildings Performance Standards at Issaquah High School. And the grant covers several energy efficiency measures and smart analytics and then retro commissioning of the building. On to Capital Projects Oversight Committee. We met on Tuesday, the 18th of March. We had 24 or 26 members were in attendance. They represented all the feeder patterns, comprised of parents, community members, and students. As mentioned earlier, experience in construction, engineering, finance, and project management. Quick rundown of the agenda and the items covered. We did welcomes, introductions, and everybody went around the room and did their why they want to be a part of this. And it was interesting to hear all that. We went over purpose and scope, group agreements. We did some bond and levy and financial background presentations, went through the budget status reports, and then spent a good portion of time on questions and comments. And there were some diverse questions and comments and points of view, and it was very interesting to hear it all. Real quick, the purpose and scope of the committee was important, and the ISD Capital Projects Oversight Committee is established to ensure the responsible management of bond and levy funds approved by voters. The committee's role is to review expenditures, monitor project progress, and ensure compliance with the approved bond and levy requirements. They're to serve as a transparent accountability measure, providing assurance to the community that the bond and levy funds for capital projects are being managed effectively and in accordance with district objectives. I'm not going to go through every one of these unless anybody has any questions, but the main three themes were that we took all the comments, which you can imagine were vast, fed them through AI and had them kind of give us the overall themes: financial transparency and accountability, bond challenges and public trust, and overcrowding and enrollment growth. And then the further breaks it down within those three categories. Next steps, we've got a meeting in June, on June 17th. We're going to continue to, we're going to put relevant information up on the Capital Projects website. We've got a specific page that we worked with the comms department on for the information from that group. We're going to continue to send them out the monthly budget status reports, and they have access to the Capital Projects website. We'll communicate with them via email. And we also told them, do not hesitate to reach out via phone or email directly to us if they have individual questions. Just future meeting dates. Any questions?
Okay, open it up to the board. Dr. Candler.
So we heard frequently asked for the bond committee. It seemed like it was just a group of parents and staff members. So I'd like to know, of the 26 on the committee, how many of them are non-parents, non-staff members, and would be in the community member, and maybe even, I've never had children go through the school district.
I don't have the stats right in front of me, but there were some very prevalent voices from folks that were there that did not have any kids in the district. And one had his kids in the district. They graduated in, I think, 1986. And he had a strong voice and was trying to understand how everything worked. He brought up some good points. And I think he got the people thinking in a different way about communication. Not everybody has a student in the district as a parent or a guardian. So I think he kind of his opinion was strong enough. He forced people to really think about that, and it created a good discussion about it. So
I would love a report out on that, because I do believe that we are accountable to our community. And one of the things that we have heard very clearly is that concern, and we committed to making sure that happens. So that would be a number that I would want to know.
Yep.
We can both share that with the board very quickly, but also share that back out in our next capital projects update. So it's also part of the board meeting on the record as well.
Yep.
Director Coyne.
Yeah, thank you for the update. And I think I first and foremost want to start by thanking those individuals who have volunteered to be on the Capital Projects Oversight Committee. I think, we talk a lot about needing more people to step up and volunteer, and this is a unique way to volunteer. I do agree with Director Gallinger's point. It would be good to get that breakout of who all is on the committee. I think one of the things that's a positive with this committee is it does give perspective to the voice of individuals in the community who do not currently have kids in the district. And I know Superintendent Tauyuk and I, when we were at Clark Elementary this week, talking to PTSA members, I think they were surprised to hear that that is about 70% of our community. So it's quite large. So, it's good that those individuals have a voice, but I think also the benefit of that too is, particularly if they've had kids who graduated in 1986, Tom, as you had mentioned, that the district has changed. And so I think it's great that they get that perspective as well, and understand what that looks like so that they can better communicate back to other parents within their community. I think one of the things too, and I don't know, Tom, I guess maybe with the breakout that we might get, but I'd be curious too. I want to make sure that we're also including younger parents, parents of elementary students who, they have a longer runway in the district. And I want to make sure that those parents have a voice. I think that was another takeaway that Superintendent Tauyuk and I had, coming away from the Clark Elementary conversation, is those parents who, many of them that night actually are kindergarten parents, want to have a voice. Their kids will directly be impacted by many of the projects that will be coming in future years. And so wanting to make sure that they have a voice too on the committee. And I don't know, Tom, if you could sense that. Are there parents who have younger elementary kids that are on the committee?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was a wide variety of from the students to parents with elementary kids, parents and had secondary kids, parents or community members with no kids in school. I think one mentioned she had one that was like a ninth grader and one that had just graduated and went on to college. And
oh, great. Okay.
yeah, so there appeared to be I'll get that breakout and we'll do the best we can to give you as detailed as possible.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. That's all I had.
Director Mullings.
What is the thinking about readout or hearing the observations from the group as they go? Like, how will we get to hear directly or in summary or in some way from the group assembled?
Well, I'll do a report out each time, and we had already talked about working with them to have one or two of their members come forward and actually report out at board meetings as to progress. Let them get their feet underneath them a little bit.
Yep.
Let's get get them comfortable with the content and what their focus is going to be or their scope. But yeah,
Awesome.
that was already a plan. Yeah.
Wonderful. And timing, we can figure out when that is. I just want to make sure that there's an expectation set with that group that they'll have some direct opportunity for communication and that we can do that in a broader setting.
Superintendent.
Actually, communication was a big topic of discussion for that group. One, not only in terms of reaching the variety of families and or individuals that do live in the district, whether they have children or not enrolled in the schools, but also in terms of, hey, we want to make sure that we are also understanding what's happening in the district because we would like to be of assistance potentially in having a role in communications as well, being able to share information that they receive or be of assistance in that way. So there was some discussion about that as well.
Any other comments? Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate this work. I think it's an important facet of that transparency and building trust that we've talked about with the community and being able to have community members that really have this level of depth of insight and to be able to report out from a community member standpoint, I think is very, very important. So thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is a discussion regarding the new high school site update.
Great. I'll open this up and pass it over to Mr. Turney. But the purpose of this agenda item is to bring forward, as a reminder, but also for the board to engage in a discussion, the details of the current financing that we have available for the new high school site and a key deadline pertaining to that new high school site. And again, the purpose is to then have the board engage in some discussion on some next steps and to be able to make sure that that's happening, also to inform the public. So I'll turn it over to Martin Turney to provide those high-level details.
Okay. Thank you, Superintendent. So just first starting out with the finances, just a reminder, and I know you've heard this before, but just letting folks know, we do have $90 million set aside for the project. Originally, when the project was set out, there's 120 million in the past. We did have about $20 million of site development and design. And then also $44 million of voter approved 2022 levy funds, most of which has already been collected. It's collected over a 4-year time frame. And so we will have all of that fairly soon. Folks may remember in connection with the 2024 bond, there was some funds set aside for safety and security that has been put on hold by the board, and that is available. That $44 million is available to contribute to a project. And so that totals $134 million to work with. Of course, as we hold those funds, there is some interest generated. So it kind of builds upon itself a little bit. And then, of course, we also have the general fund committed amount of $20 million that could be utilized toward a project as well. Upcoming deadline with the permit, and we've talked about this in the past, April 27th, there is a deadline. There is a possibility with no guarantee, but we could go to the city and request an extension of the permit. And at your direction, we could go ahead and request that permit and report back to you on the result there. We could also bring back what we believe within the constraints of the finances and the feasibility of that, what could exist on that site. So we could put that together and bring that back at the next board meeting in April, if you'd like. So just wanted to remind us of those numbers and the possibilities and bring it back to you.
Any board questions? So, taking a look at my agenda. So I wanted to get a consensus rather than an official vote, I believe, right? A consensus about the extension of the permit. So are there any comments or especially concerns about giving for the district to continue seeking an extension? Dr. Callender?
I would just say, I think we have a fiduciary responsibility to explore all options, especially given that we've already invested $20 million on site development in addition to the cost of that property. So certainly for me as a taxpayer, I would want the district to explore all options. This community has voted twice to approve building on that site in 2016 and in 2022. They affirmed that support. And so I would want to know what those are. So I would be in support of and very eager to hear.
Okay. Director Mullings.
Yeah, I agree with what Director Allender just said. Maybe just repeat for me what you said. The request to the city would be what precisely?
We would submit a request through a letter to extend the permit.
Sorry, maybe you said a second.
It'd be to extend both the building permit and the land use permit. There are two permits that are expire within 8 days of each other, one on the 19th, one on the 27th. And we would ask to extend both of those.
Awesome. I must have heard that. Maybe it was the second thing you said you would bring back as well.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. You
Oh.
mentioned 2 items you would
Oh,
you'd be pursuing, and
We're gonna bring back lots of stuff. So
I didn't
sorry.
hold on to the second one.
Okay, yes. What I mean is we could bring back a plan for the site that would fit within the design and financial feasibility. So within the $134 million plus that we have at our disposal, what could fit into on that site within those constraints. Yep.
Perfect. So yes, definitely. I mean, just commentary. I'm supportive of both of those things. I think if we have an opportunity to pursue an extension as well as look at what options we have, I think that is the perfect outcome for me.
I think for me as well, I think really pursuing, we put a lot of effort to getting those the building permit and land use permit in the first place. It was extensive appeals by the public. And so I really don't want to have to go through that process again to be able to utilize what funds we do have, because the funds we do have diminish over time based on inflationary costs. So the sooner we are able to, if we're able to extend those, and then the sooner we are to be able to have some type of plan of being able to utilize the funds we do have to address the overcrowding that we currently are experiencing, I think is important for us to be able to move forward. And I'm sorry, we're not taking public comment on this, but you're welcome to email us. Director Taylor.
I won't belabor the point. I concur with what Director Gallinger and what you both just said. So I too support that action.
Thank you. Director Coyne, any feedback?
And I would agree. I am in support of requesting extension as well.
Okay. So Superintendent, is that enough direction for you and your staff?
Yes, we can work with the city and we will submit a extension request. And we'll do that as soon as possible, which is probably almost immediately after this meeting. But more importantly, we also heard the request to come back to the board, and we can work with you through agenda planning to slate that in for the April 10th meeting, which is our next meeting, with some starter opportunities and about what some options could be based on our current financing and the current design of that building.
Great. Thank you very much.
As a note, I did want to talk a little bit about some of these costs because they do relate to, our capital projects, but there was a question that had come up during public comment around administrative cost for the district. And I might as well just step into that conversation right now because it does come up quite a bit when we talk about our capital projects and our overall work on bonds and levies. We have a very low total administrative cost. It's about 8.5%. So that's pretty low overall, and compared to other King County districts, the average of that, and we're looking at different years, but that's, probably about 12%. So it's pretty low.
And I just want to clarify that is both central building, which happens here, and the administration within each of our school buildings. Okay, great. Thanks. We will go on to our next agenda item then, which is the monitoring reports for results 3, civic engagement. And I will start with a motion. How dare I move so quickly?
What? That I wasn't expecting that question, but yes. So I move the board accept the monitoring report results 3, civic engagement R3 as presented.
Second.
Great. And do we have, I know this is up for a student advisory report. What I will do is I will let the district do their presentation. Are we getting feedback from students on this?
Nope, there are no student reports
Okay.
on this one.
And then I will open it up to public comment. I'm telling this to the board to remind me to allow it to be opened up to public comment because I forgot last time. And then we'll have our board discussion and questions.
Okay, great. Before I pass it over to Dr. Bailey and Rich Mellish, I just want to frame this results report tonight on civic engagement, as this topic of civic engagement is so crucial. Now more than ever, for so many reasons, and upon reflecting over the past year, this is work that we do look forward to building upon. And while there is some overlap content with other operational expectations, you might see specifically repeated evidence from operational expectation 14, which is instructional program, or operational expectation 15 on technology. But seeing the work through the lens of this results, I think really makes the board's value statement that students will live as responsible members of society, demonstrating integrity and compassion, reflects the forward-thinking development of this policy specifically and the district goal that resonates so much now with the intersection of global events, national news, sustainability, and technology. So I just wanted to call that out because that was a particularly poignant reflection for me as we were going through the reflection process for last year, given where we are now. And I do want to highlight, and I know that Dr. Bailey will speak to this a bit in her framings, an overview of the report, is that one key area of ongoing need is social emotional learning at the high school level, which we've heard from our students about recently, and I have heard about it in other student spaces. And while we have made progress, we also know that we need to do more, to support that. And figuring out how to do that in the context of high school structures is more challenging than an elementary structure or middle school structure. So we are committed to that, and that's certainly one thing I want to pull forward.
Thank you, dear school board director, superintendent, our student reps, community members, and my school team. Thank you for the opportunity to present results 3, civic engagement and our progress towards students living as responsible members of society, demonstrating integrity and compassion. It seems perfect timing tonight to present results 3 with the recent update on the Day of the Hill and our student representatives' experience in their own advocacy at our legislature. Thank you for your service, your advocacy, and your investment of your time exercising your civic opportunities in the Day of the Hill. I believe that Issaquah was well represented in Olympia that day. Student achievement data for social studies was presented in results 2, showing 80 or more % of our students earning a B or better in their social studies classes. This grade data indicates that most students are learning what was intended in the social studies classes, both the required ones and the elective ones. An important part of this monitoring report is highlighting the series of social studies adoptions that are underway and upcoming. These adoptions provide us an opportunity to focus on bringing forward the most culturally relevant materials and time for deep consideration about what and how teachers are presenting information on history, geography, economics, and civics, supporting our students to understand the people, places, issues, and events that shape our world. Student feedback is always a key indicator of how we're making progress towards this outcome, and reflecting on all the ways that we hear from students, be it annual surveys, student panels, or senior exit surveys. This is one way we know how we're doing. Student survey feedback is presented in the document, and if you were lucky enough to go to a senior exit survey, you may have heard firsthand how the students feel and experience the learning of civics in our school. Social emotional learning has been highlighted in other reports, but I'll highlight again that the high school student feedback included a clear message that canned or pre-planned lessons were not meeting our high standards for quality learning. The high school social emotional learning committee is working to build something that both meets the Washington K-12 standards and also is well received by our high school students. Unfiltered feedback is how we get better, and we continue to evolve and respond in this area to meet what the students need and want from us. Technology use has elements in several monitoring reports, and results 3 invites us to report specifically on the ethical use and impact of technology, social media, and AI in our students' lived experiences. I had a chance this week to dialogue with our student representatives about this topic, and they have invited us to expand how we survey students on using social media to include communication tools such as Discord. We think the specific question about do you use social media may have been too narrow of a question, and we'll work to expand and improve this. Students in middle school reported a consistent and significant increase from the year before about detecting bias and accuracy of what they learn online, how to be safe, and how to make responsible choices in their digital presence. The Win at Social curriculum launched last September. Visible sustainability efforts are throughout the system, with system efforts in food services of reusable trays and compostable single-use items, water filling stations in many of the buildings, including this one, and our first electric buses are on order. Students absolutely impress in this area with examples everywhere, including the sustainability pledge activities and other ventures both in and out of school. The Healthy Youth Survey offers great insight to how our students are experiencing their schooling, and I want to highlight the protective factors in this report. The research behind the Healthy Youth Survey indicates that we can do more of the things that add students pro-social and resilient skills, and one of them is participating in clubs, specifically service clubs. I encourage all of us to lead in and support times and ways that students can be engaged, members of a smaller group, participate in activities that invite students into clubs and activities, and the protective factors that clubs and activities offer. We are here to answer your questions.
Okay, thank you. So before we go into questions from the board, I will open this up to public comment, and Mr. Nagakar had also specified he had an interest in a comment at this time.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity again. I just wanted to note on civic engagement, we have the board represented in force, we have students, but I think the parents are subject to the buzzer, which is a little bit unnerving. I think maybe we can improve on that, maybe give more time. On the policy front, I wanted to say that some of the language in the document suggests that we are focusing on the identity of students and having them act or support things that are aligned with the identity, instead of teaching them to think for themselves and figure out what's right and wrong, not aligned with identity, but aligned with a synthesis of what they learn in school and what they are able to experience in this diverse environment. So I think a lot of work needs to be done on the policy so that we don't have actions that become counterproductive. So if you want a certain outcome on a survey, you will have students say things or do things at school that will kind of lead to the outcome of saying, I respect all people or all cultures are equal, when in fact, that is not what we want. We want them to critically think and have an engagement and debate with people around them so that we can synthesize something better rather than just a potpourri. We synthesize something new in this country from the diversity that we have available to us. So I encourage that maybe you think about that and improve on that if possible, if there's a way to do it. Thank you.
Thank you for that public comment. Okay, we'll open it up to, was there any public comment online? Thank you. Seeing none, then we'll move to comments from the board or students or questions for staff. I'm ready to pick if anyone wants to raise their hand. Okay. Dr. Coyne. I'm Director Coyne, sorry. And you're muted. You knew it was going to happen once.
Yes, I know, exactly. I was just joking. I said I've suddenly turned into a doctor tonight. So appreciate obviously this the results, going over this from results 3 on civic engagement. I was reflecting on, I think Dr. Bailey had mentioned the recent senior exit interviews, and I had a chance to sit on those last week at Issaquah High, and I was thinking about the number of students that I had a chance to speak with and really where aspects of this resonated. And I was thinking about 3.2 specifically, students will understand and apply ethical principles in all aspects of life. And then also 3.7, students will recognize how their personal and collective actions impact the greater community. And I would say with every single one of the students that I spoke with, those two really resonated in their reflections. I know each of them was able to really very articulately share how their personal and collective actions will impact the greater community, and really the work that they've done to support the community and to support their school. So, I know that's just a small subset, but I definitely saw that in those interviews last week. And I think the piece around detecting bias in news and social media It's interesting. I know that that's taught in schools, and I think I've shared this before, but my own students, my own kids have referenced that, and they always kind of keep me in check with that too. So I know that the work that the district does around that, I know resonates with, at least with my kids. They have brought that back to my attention many times. So applaud the district for doing that work too. So thank you.
Dr. Gallinger, who is truly a doctor.
So I think I would say, civic engagement, it's students will live as responsible members of society, demonstrating integrity and compassion. And I don't think that or any other of our sub bullets have anything about identity or politics in there. We want our students to be actively engaged in their communities and to be people who love to do what they can to make this world a better place. And there's nothing more that I want for our students, because we also want them to be outstanding in math and reading and writing and history and sciences and arts and music. And this is one more part of how we really focus on the whole child and their well-roundedness, because that's ultimately how they're going to be successful and thrive in this world. I think teaching emotional intelligence is really hard, but probably one of the most important things you do to have our students be successful in new and unfamiliar environments that is going to be where they find themselves as soon as they graduate from our system. And so I applaud our superintendent and your team for all the work you do for this, because this is not just about belonging, it's about transcending that and to pivoting to be like, so how do I contribute to making that better for the world around me? And that's important. And I know, and that I've constantly talked about my desires for a more robust and more student-centered SEL curriculum. And I know that you guys continue to work on that. And that's a hard one, because as I just listed all these other things that I want you to also do. But I think that there's so much richness in there in what students just live through that I wish that we could somehow figure out a way to make it to be where it's a student-driven process, because I think there's so much that students could teach each other, and we could give them an opportunity to have open dialogue about the challenges that they face about social media or about choices that they have amongst each other that directly impact how they make people feel. And that's so much equally important to the head knowledge that they get. So I just want to say thank you for this, because this is something that we think is just as important as a board as all of the academic knowledge that we expect them to have.
Christian, then Milo.
Thank you. I had a couple of quick questions on the surveys themselves. So from my understanding, they are pretty extensive surveys. So I was wondering how long one typically is and when they're administered, because at least from personal experience, I can say that when I see a long survey, it's very easy for me to quickly think about the question in front of me instead of going through the entire thing and actually thinking about it. And the other thing was, is there any desire to expand more than qualitative data into quantitative? Because I feel like having these discussions with students or facilitating that discussion in the classroom would give a much greater idea of, like Director Gallinger said, the challenges they face or successes they face as well. And the last thing was making it more specific, making specific questions, defining what it means to actually utilize social media, because some students might think using social media is actively posting, whereas others students think social media is actually just scrolling and accessing content on it.
Yeah, thank you very much for those questions. The annual student surveys that come out from the district are quite long, 50 questions or more. And we recognize that that is one of the elements of the survey fatigue that results in lower response rates and lower response rates at the end of the survey than at the beginning. The elementary school does not seem to have that same struggle. It's middle school and high school response. We are always working on improving the surveys for clarity and to make sure we are writing questions that land for the students in the way that we intend them. And without a doubt, this is an area where we could be more concise and could have better results to work with at the end.
I just have a
Wait.
Oh, sorry.
I was just going to say, I appreciated you thinking about both the qualitative and quantitative. And I think the introduction over the last couple of years of empathy interviews has been a really valuable addition to our understanding of the student voice.
Okay, now Milo. I'm so sorry. I just had a few questions about the actual data. I was looking through the fourth grade soft skill surveys in particular, and a lot of them show higher percentages in 2021 and 2022 and 2022 to 2023. And I understand that there was the like neutral like response that was given in the 2023-2024 survey. So I'm sure there was a little bit of that. But I just wanted to first know if there was a reason why you think that more people are neutral than positive, specifically with I'm the fourth grade, I'm willing to listen to other people's opinions, but I make my own decisions. That was like significantly, like almost 10% lower in the 2023, but the 12% was in the neutral. Just curious on that, because the other ones, the middle school and high school, seem to like be continuously going up, but the fourth grade's going down, and I'm wondering if that has something to do with like COVID and their like lack of soft skills in that area. And then once you answer that, I have another question.
Sure. The addition of a neutral response is to provide consistency across all of the surveys so we can track them through all of the grades. And also, if you don't offer people an option to be neutral, like I neither agree or disagree, then it makes them choose one or the other, which might not actually be measurable results. So they're both reported so that you can make your own judgment about where neutral might have been a year ago for a fourth grader.
Is there neutral for the high school and middle school too? Because it doesn't show in their percentages.
There is, and we only represent in these graphs agree or strongly agree because the neutral has been in the middle school and high school one for a couple of years.
Got you. Okay, cool. Yeah. So, yeah, it seems like the fourth grade have that. They're still like lower. They're in the 80s, whereas the high schoolers are in the 90s, even with the neutral. Is that right?
Well, the high school doesn't include the neutral, but it also was only 102 high school students across the system last year. So it's not really a representative sample, but I appreciate the statistical thinking that you're using right now.
Got you. Okay. And then the 2023 Healthy Youth Survey with the, I think that's on page 10, with the bullied through social media percentages, the received sexual photos or videos, and the knows how to report bullying. There's a decent amount of respondents on that. That was an online, like that was an anonymous survey, correct? Okay.
Correct.
Okay, cool. I would like to share my experience as a student with those surveys that I did in middle school, very similar. This is nothing to you guys because we're middle schoolers and high schoolers, but a lot of them that I've seen complete these surveys have been untruthful with the fear of being reported to their counselor or their parents. And so from my experience talking to people and being in a few support groups, the amount of people bullied through social media or receiving sexual photos or videos is much higher. But that's just my experience at Gibson Ec and PCMS. But I'm just wondering, I hope in the future there's a way that we can assure students that this is confidential and like get the accurate numbers, which I'm not sure how to do that. I don't even know if that is something that we can do, but I would just put that out there that I'm not 100% sure that everybody is being truthful there.
I would say that there are ways, well, we can't know if somebody says no and it's a yes, but there are ways in the Healthy Youth Survey, they ask questions multiple times in multiple ways to be able to see who's answering more consistently. But I would agree that having a level of effort to dispel a lot of rumors around your student's going to be tracked, et cetera. The Healthy Youth Survey is completely anonymized. Your name isn't given at any point. And so I think that having somewhat of a campaign looking at the fact that the survey will be given in October, I think there's even an outside organization that will be supporting the work to make sure that the Healthy Youth Survey data is done well. A higher response from seniors, much as what you had pointed out, Dr. Bailey, is that getting seniors to respond is very difficult as well. In fact, I know that of other districts that I will not name that didn't even offer it to their seniors last time because the results from the previous year was below 40%, so it was unusable. And so we want to make sure that we're getting a good sample size of students. In the Healthy Youth Survey, you have to have at least 40% participation in order for those results to come back. Director Mullings.
So I was actually going to hold this to the next agenda item, but I'll cover it and then I'll go back to the specific report. So Director President Moraldo and I had the opportunity to attend the general PTSA meeting at Issaquah Middle School last week. So we did that together. And I think the point, Miley, you're bringing up here on comfort or with anonymity and reporting is actually one that was pretty significant, I thought, in that meeting for last week. So I have a lot more to say about that meeting on the next topic, but I think there is maybe a thread in many places that this idea of not reporting, underreporting, maybe not being comfortable reporting because of whatever either anonymity or follow-on action that occurs is actually something we probably need to take a look at. In that session, and I don't mean this in a negative way, I am not surprised to hear students talk about the concerns of anonymity reporting. In that meeting, I was surprised to hear parents echo that same sentiment, that they are as well not reporting for those same fears for their children. So I think there is maybe a bit of a longer thread in this, in how do we talk about reporting in general? How do we talk about the facilities available for reporting, like on each school website, and what the action items that follow through with that? But that may have been one of the more disturbing threads in that conversation for me during that session, which was about concerns around violence and other items from that IMS meeting. So I think there's maybe a bit more we can do within our community to talk about reporting and follow-on action and anonymity that's probably needed.
Yeah. No, and I was going to say, and around fear of retaliation.
Yes.
So that's why the anonymity seems to be important. In some cases, if you are reporting a crime, you can't necessarily be anonymous if you are the victim, because at some point you do have to come out. Any other question, or then, okay, then back to that.
On this report, and it's super tactical, and I think I just closed the document. So there is a piece in there, apologies. I closed it as I was looking up the session information.
And once you open it, do you have the page number, and can we show it on the screen?
My goodness.
I know, I'm so picky.
Let me try to get it back open. It was the point around, around history in middle school and it being applicable for high school, for the high school graduation requirement.
Northwest Studies.
Northwest Studies. And the point in there that maybe I just don't understand what we're saying is it sounds like we need more time to cover the material, so we're making it a 2 trimester class.
Yeah, so the state requirement is that a semester of Northwest Studies be taught to students. And we have traditionally done that in one trimester of middle school. So as we were going into the review process for these social studies adoptions, one of the things we asked ourselves is, do we really feel that we can put a semester of high school content into a trimester of middle school? And so we decided, no, we will expand that to two trimesters to be able to get that content in there. And especially because Washington State history gives us a chance to really authentically put since time immemorial curriculum really deeply into the curriculum. So it allows us to really make sure that we integrate that well. So that was the thinking on that one.
Okay, so it's section 3.1. It is page 2, under challenges. So maybe what I'm trying to understand is there any impact to the elongation of that curriculum at middle school that impacts, I guess, how it doesn't matter that it's one trimester versus 2 in order to meet the state requirement? I get that we're going to more. And then secondarily, we have provisions for students who enter our school district post high school and what they have to do. So does this change their requirement if they enter the system post middle school?
No, we have not, we do feel like we're meeting the basic education requirements. It's not that is compromised at this point. It's more about when we reviewed the curriculum saying we wanted to give the time for that content that we felt it deserved, and that the state standards really kind of called for a richer look at that content. So it's not going to affect graduation requirements for students either who completed it in one trimester, nor is it the students who come in later and have to take it at high school. It doesn't affect that. So under both systems, they'll be able to graduate and it won't affect that qualification.
So for me, to build on this question, the elongation of one topic requires the truncation of other topics. So what other topics are impacted and not dived into as much based on this?
So currently through this year, we're doing ancient and medieval history for all of 6th grade and part of 7th grade. And then we did Northwest history for the rest of 7th grade. Starting next year, we'll have a year of 6th grade will continue to be ancient and medieval history, and 7th grade will be Northwest history and geography, because that geography was another area we wanted a bit more content in. So that's the changes we're making starting in the fall.
Okay, thank you.
And then my last comment is, and I do, and for some reason on this topic in particular, the way that this document is phrased in the current set of challenges and the actions is very satisfying to read in this format. So I just want to acknowledge that. Super helpful to go through it in that way.
Director Taylor.
I'm going to switch gears here a little bit. I wanted to talk a little bit about digital citizenship and AI. First of all, I think the data seems to show that the digital citizenship curriculum is having an impact, which I think is great. But I'm curious about AI, and I'm going to see if I can frame this question so you can understand it. I understand that we have responsible AI usage agreements in the high schools. I think the work being done around priorities for AI work is great. I don't think AI is something to be feared. It should be taught as a tool to learn about efficiencies and to grow the use of AI. We're just right on the cusp of this whole revolution around AI. So my question is, though, how are we monitoring AI use in the schools? I mean, can teachers even detect if AI is used in certain instances? And I don't even really need specifics about that. I'm really more curious as to where we are as this being a topic of conversation amongst our teaching staff, and how much work we're going to have to anticipate to address the AI revolution.
You want me to? Okay. Who wants to start? Okay. Yes, it's a topic of discussion among teachers, most definitely, and has been a hot topic. We do have some AI detectors in our turnitin.com, I believe it's called, resources. I feel like our teachers have stayed up on the press, though, that AI detectors are not fully reliable and have gender and cultural bias. So we've been careful on that. And so it is something that we're talking a lot about. We do have, what I will say is, in the progression of professional development and work on the AI, this year we've been doing a lot of focus groups with teachers, doing some PD, the optional PD. And in August, we will be rolling out our first district-wide mandatory PD on AI, centered on colleague AI, where we're working with a product out of the University of Washington that came out of a grant that we're working with them. And so we'll be rolling that out with very clear examples of ways to use AI. To our public speaker earlier, our public input earlier, it will include ways that teachers can use colleague AI to be more efficient, to adapt. We've got some wonderful stories because we've been doing little experiment groups with colleague AI with groups of teachers. So we've found some really nice uses to help differentiate and engage in universal design using AI. It also has some spaces for students to safely engage with AI. And so we're gonna have a step forward in giving an official tool for using AI in the classroom next year. And that will also then give us another forum to really talk about the ethical use and the appropriate use and the kind of how do we use AI in a way that extends learning and doesn't allow students to avoid learning. And so we feel like we're taking good steps, but it's been a really big topic. And I think that the range of comfort with engaging in this right now is quite broad in our district. Dr. Bailey would like to add anything?
That's great.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? I can't see Director Coyne if he had his hand up at all.
I don't. Thank you, though, President Holda.
Oh, Ava, go ahead.
Oh, okay. I was just going to ask again about what got like cut off with the other two semesters or the other two trimesters, but I know that was asked, but I honestly good timing because I was just thinking about something else I wanted to bring up on the topic of student usage of AI and things like Turnitin. I know that a lot of us are aware of like the biases, the potential for things to get flagged that were original work. But I also want to highlight the fact that there is quite prevalent, I think, anxiety around that. For example, the other day I had like an in-class write, and it was completely in class, so our teacher observed everybody do it. But after submitting it, I had put it into an AI checker and it gave me like a 90%, and then I put it into another AI checker and it gave me like 0%. And of course, Turnitin flags things that are prevalent across other academic sources. So if you use common phrases, of course, those things are going to get flagged. So I just also think it's important to make sure that our students are aware that staff members are also looking into these things and they're not kind of out to get you as long as you're not actually using AI in order to inhibit learning. But I just think there could be better communication alongside students on that front.
Thank you for that input. Any other students before I move on? Okay, his first part is a student advisory vote. So we'll bring that up for you. I see the number is 34. Great, thank you. Okay, now I open it to the board for any final comments before we go to the vote. Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you so much for that. Thank you for the presentation and information. It's very, very informative and available to our public in case they are wondering how we are doing as a system. And speaking of which, we have a strategic plan around that. So our next agenda item is a strategic plan update, priority area 5, organizational effectiveness.
Great, thank you. I'm just going to frame us up as Marcel Hauser, Martin Turney, and Mariah Banasic join us up here at the podium. So tonight's presentation launches a series of updates for board discussion and for the community to know about the strategic plan efforts in support of Results 1, the mission of the organization. We will be going in reverse order and doubling up on a few meetings in terms of the priority areas shared for April and May. As a reminder, we are in year 2 of the implementation of the district's first strategic plan, and next year, concurrent with year 3, we will also be preparing to refresh this strategic plan and the hopes that spans from 26 to 29. Keeping our efforts focused on a 3-year time horizon allows us to adapt and adjust while also providing prioritization for our work in terms of time, effort, and financial resources. Most importantly, the strategic plan brings cohesion and clarity so that we can all row in the same direction. And, I have some ideas about where things might be going next, coming out of what we have been learning, but that's, also for conversation with the community as we continue to hear from you all, but also others as we go into the re-engagement phase and follow-up phase of where we are. And again, I want to thank Marcel Hauser for facilitating this work on behalf of the district and for ensuring that we have the systems and routines in place to monitor and adjust as needed, while also ensuring we're engaging and re-engaging and following up with staff, family, students, in the community. And with that, I'll pass it over to you.
Good evening, President Moraldo, Board Director, Superintendent Toya, student reps. Marcel Hauser, Senior Advisor in Strategy, Milo, more. Right. Excited to be able to share a bit about the strategic plan and happy that we'll have a series of these conversations throughout because we lead up to June in our mission, our monitoring of Results 1. So just excited to highlight, again, our organizational effectiveness area, because sometimes this is the one that sort of does the work behind the scenes, and it doesn't always get highlighted because it's a little bit away from students, but it's the engine. It's talking about equity-based funding. It's talking about continuous improvement. Again, the highlight that continues dear to my heart. I'm now walking up to the stage and not rolling on the bike. So, right. So it is something that dear to my heart. So tonight, advance our slide here on purpose is really just to provide a highlight, and I'm going to share a little bit about our spring engagement plan. Today, lucky enough, I had a chance to meet with the PTSA. President Moraldo was there, Superintendent Tariq was there. So I have some results and some feedback direct from our PTSA General Assembly I want to share tonight as well. So, and then we'll go deeper into the organizational effectiveness priority area. I always want to start in just, I know the vision is a couple years sort of new now, but I always like to start to read it because it's about all students thriving as they engage in meaningful learning that unlocks their passion and potential to positively impact the world. And it is all students. I think about a lot of the work that we do as we think about our problem of practice, and we're focused on BIPOC students and students with IEPs. It is all students. So when we think about funding and what we do and why we do, that's the why. So we're trying to stay aligned to our vision and our mission. And, for all of us, it's like we're not going to stop until we continue to do those things and get better. So as we ground in that, a reminder to community about our strategic plan. It's made up of 5 different priority areas: student well-being, academic opportunities, diverse talent, authentic engagement, and organizational effectiveness. And it's really, as you think about student well-being, it's about supporting student belonging, student resources. You get into academic opportunities, it's supporting students and providing opportunities and pathways for success. The diverse talent kind of shifts to the staff focus. So how do we make sure we have staff who reflect the student population we serve? Then as we look at authentic engagement, it's that two-way communication. How are we communicating with community, amongst staff, amongst each other, in a way that's engaging and thoughtful? And then organizational effectiveness. You'll hear more about it tonight as we share and go deeper. I also like to keep this because as we think about the strategic plan, it really must align to our policies and the things that govern us as we work through. This is just a reminder and a reflection of we have different operational expectations and results, which are our goals. Our strategic plan priority areas are aligned to those things, and we are constantly looking at these as we go through and policies change, as we're just working on OE17, which is coming up. So new things come on board. We want to make sure we're always aligned as we work. And then the bottom, I would just point out, we really look at this priority area as an area that supports all the work in the district, especially when you're talking about budgeting. So as we look at spring engagement and what's upcoming, we've had some, messaging that's gone out through ISD Insider, so many different areas, but I'm going to pull up and really highlight the PTSA General Assembly meeting today that I part in, and was able to crunch some of the data quickly just to kind of pull together some themes and what our parent leaders across the district had to say about the strategic plan, and about just in general, what was the impact of the plan, what has not been impactful by priority area. Then I also asked a question about future states. So where would they like us to focus as we think about the refresh? As Superintendent Toyik mentioned, we're already thinking and starting that planning for the refresh of our plan. So I'm going to just share a couple highlights that came out of the meeting today. And one of the questions was around future focus and suggestions, and a couple highlights or suggestions that came out. One was around really illuminating the resources around district resources, so teachers and building managers kind of know what's out there. So one was around communication. Another piece was around our culture and climate. So they shared, how do we support buildings that feel like students are dealing with racism in spaces? Like, how do we support students in those moments? But also, how do we stand on diversity as a core principle and value, especially in the space now where, around us in the environment, things are shifting and changing and messaging is changing. So just what are our values as a system? How do we stand on that and support? Another piece popped around partnerships and community involvement. So how do we provide basic need support? We're doing a lot of that in our social, our priority area 1. So we're doing a lot of that work. So Noah Westerberg is leading that work, but how do we continue to do that and share? Tutoring access came up and coordination for tutoring and support. And then lastly, I'll just share, so EduSpeak. So we all love to speak in acronyms and the things. So how do we continue to think about friendly language for families as we transparently communicate and authentically communicate? So that's hot off the presses, some stuff that we shared, and that just kind of gives a flavor of, we're going to continually ask community, what do we do well, what needs to change, and what should we focus on going forward? And with that, because we're doing well on time right now, just by the way, Director Gallinger, we're doing great. We're ahead. I'm going to pass it to Martin to share a little bit and go deeper on the area. All right.
Thank you very much. So we're here to talk about organizational effectiveness. Students will thrive and experience meaningful learning supported by effective district systems, structures, and processes, and resource allocation. So how are we going to do that? This area is divided into 2 goals. District leaders and staff will model continuous improvement practices to enhance student, staff, and family experiences. And strategy here to develop a continuous improvement cycle throughout the organization. I'll tell you a little bit about that and how we're doing that in just a second. Goal number 2, district leaders and staff will increase engagement in decisions that support effective resource allocation based on priorities and needs to support students and staff. And how to do that, develop a transparent, equity-based budget framework to ensure alignment of funding to areas of highest student need. So in terms of background, now I want to highlight a couple of things in terms of progress and initiatives. We have partnered with an IT professional who's lended his expertise to looking at our systems and our structures to give us some recommendations on how we can greater align what we do and find some efficiencies and effective ways of being organized and operating. We did partner specifically with a company called Inform K-12 to help us transform some key district processes, particularly with moving some of our forms electronically and automating the process. And so we started with payroll, and we're going to be broadening out, and I'll share a little bit about that in just a second. We're currently developing a lean continuous improvement training plan, including the selection and training of continuous improvement leads in each district department, and continuation of equity-based budget framework, the work and engagement ready for the 25-26 budget. So our lead for this lean continuous improvement strategy is Laura Carmichael. She couldn't be here tonight, so I'm going to share out her section. A little bit about what it is for those who don't know. This was something developed through Toyota's production system. Focuses in on a few different areas to streamline process, eliminate waste, or reduce inefficiencies. Continuous improvement to use some data-driven changes to make things run more effectively. Better use of resources, making sure that the funding, staffing, and programs are used effectively, and maximizing staff time by creating efficiencies. So a little bit of background there, but next steps in this area are going to include, well, I'll start with this. Laura Carmichael went through a program of getting trained as a quasi-expert in this area so that she could bring back her learning and begin training in-house. So the next steps being to train lean leaders and core teams at each building. So we're going to do some in-house training of folks who can take this knowledge and do something with it where they live in each department and building. Train incoming staff on lean culture and thinking. That way, you know, we want to have a lean culture. So as you come into the system, the first thing one of the first things you find out is that this is how we think and this is how we do things. So it's embedded in what we do. And then ensuring continued support from the executive team. And there's a lot of ideas on how we might be able to do that. Laura's got some things that she's looking to put into place to make sure that those out there who've been trained and are part of the lean culture are getting that reinforced over time, and we're not losing that focus. And I'm going to let Mariah talk about her area.
Thank you, Martin. Good evening. I'm the strategy lead for the equity-based budget. So I'm very excited to share our development for the equity-based budget framework. It's designed to ensure every student have what they need to thrive, and it uses a comprehensive equity index to guide additional resource allocations beyond core staffing. And core staffing is based on enrollment, and then the equity-based budget framework is then layered on top. The process. So we started in September 2023. We formed an internal work group with district department leaders, certificated and classified staff, as well as equity leaders. And their insights have been invaluable to the shaping of this framework. We also partnered with Education Resource Strategies, who has worked with districts around the nation in developing these frameworks and with the allocation of resources as well. At the heart of this approach is the equity index, and we considered a comprehensive view and looked at access to nutrition, specialized instruction, academic supports, housing stability, and multilingual proficiency. Something when we built this framework, we realized that the schools that were highest in the framework were already receiving additional supports above core staffing. And so this framework ensures that those investments are sustained and intentionally directed where they are needed most. The initial resource allocations are provided in the fall, and then as the school year progresses, when student needs arise, we also allocate more resources to those schools. Also important to note that the entire framework is funded by the Educational Programs and Operations Levy and is critical to student support. So our next steps is implementing and monitoring the framework, as well as continuing to engage with our internal work group and the stakeholders. We annually review our budget and make any adjustments, and then we're looking at long-term planning for sustainability of these resources. So this is a meaningful approach to ensure every student has what they need to thrive, and we look forward to continuing this important work ahead. Thank you. And I'm going to turn it back over to Martin.
Okay, thank you, Mariah. So just rounding that out, summary of next steps for this area. We're going to continue our partnership with Inform K-12. As I mentioned, this was a solution to converting a lot of our paper processes into electronic processes and automating those things. So we've been able to do thousands of those through payroll because that's one of those areas that you can start with and get an immediate impact. And so we want to make sure now that we have a firm grasp on how this works and know what we can do with it. We broaden out to other departments and areas in the district who can take advantage of it. We've had that initial review and assessment from our IT consultant and putting a roadmap in place to centralize efforts to improve effectiveness and efficiencies is very important. So we're going into that next stage of doing something with the information we have. Absolutely, the ongoing collaboration with the equity-based budget internal work group that Mariah mentioned, and exploring opportunities to expand the equity-based budget in the future. So that rounds up our update. Do you have any questions for us?
Okay, so to our board and students that are left. No. To my left. Yes, and as our students, I want to say our students are also involved in educational opportunities. So if they needed to leave, that is okay, given we want them to be successful in their endeavors. So any questions for our board? Krish.
Hello. My questions particularly focus around the lean and continuous improvement, so strategy 5A, and focusing on students. So I love the plan, and next steps help a bunch. My question really revolve around like, what are the metrics? How are we going to make sure that these plans are successful? And like, have any of these initiatives been like done in the past? And if so, what have they really attempted to streamline at
Yeah,
all?
no, great question. So we started off with getting trained up first. So that's why we started with kind of the core point of contact with Laura Carmichael. And so part of what she's going to bring back and train folks on is how we establish those metrics when we take on an initiative. So how do you plan? How do you identify the metrics, and how are you going to measure those at the end of a process? So it's a continuous process. So we haven't had it like a kickoff yet that we can show as a demonstration or an example. But once we do, we'd be happy to bring that back and show you kind of how that went through the process and how those were identified and monitored.
I think that helps a lot.
Yep.
Director Taylor.
Just a quick question following up actually on that is, how did the district land on lean continuous to begin with?
That's a great.
Yeah. Yeah, taken to the Wayback Machine, Director Taylor, think about our process. So yeah, we had a chance to build with community. Like we originally worked with delivery associates and outside organization to help us with the initial interview processes and data collection. That then led to the formation of some focus areas. So we got organizational effectiveness kept coming up in feedback, saying like, you need to work on your systems and your processes and the things. So out of that came lean continuous improvement. We had workshops with the board, we had workshops with parent groups. So it was a huge sort of process of developing first the focus areas, priority areas, and then the specific strategies. So it ended up leaning on lean because it was, well, how do you improve an organization? How do you do this? Well, you need to create continuous improvement cycles. So lean naturally came out of that as a methodology or a tool we could train in, and then as a way to then create those cycles in the organization. So built with community, then the focus became that in that strategy area.
Okay, and Superintendent's going to build on that.
The additional context for that time is that we were in year 3 of financial budget reductions as well. So we were paying particular attention in that time with the strategy development of maximizing resources. And as we thought about that, and I know that I think we can all cite working in any organization, there's always something that can be improved. It's like that one thing that if we could just solve that series of signatures or like how that process moves, that would like make us all feel a lot better. So we were just giving voice or affirming the voice that we were hearing, like, hey, let's actually just like take it beyond just, hey, we'll live and adapt to that bad process, and we're actually going to take it on. So those are some other backdrops that we were hearing. So that came from a lot of our staff members. And I know every organization has process improvement needs. So that was another part, which is how do we actually just get at it together? And lean itself has those measurable metrics. You know, we talked a lot about the black belts, the green belt process, and how that can actually show measurable process.
So just to follow, so you were looking for a methodology to use to do this work and landed on the Toyota lean continuous methodology? Is that how I understand?
Essentially, and that came forward as like, I mean, we had people here, Mr. Hauser has a project management certification and background. So as we looked at also the assets that existed, I think Martin also has that. I think many people in the business office actually have their Greenbelt training as well. So it just sort of naturally came up as part of the conversation. There are tools that help you measure financial savings, and not only in terms of actual costs, but human time that then, can be put back into doing other things more effectively or actually saving dollars. I first learned about it because I sat in a unit at Amazon during my MBA internship at the fulfillment center in Delaware. So I was sitting with the black and green belts, and they had projects that all staff were able to run. So that's how I first also came about Lean Six Sigma.
I hadn't heard of it before, so I was just curious.
And just add
Jen-
more
Jennifer's-
additional context. So the state auditor's office as well offered support and training to us last year. So that's a piece of it while that connects there. And then the Chris's question around like, how do we measure? It's really a way to measure either cost, quality, or time. So it's the iron triangle. So one of the three will be measuring something around the process, which will save us. So when we think about quality, it's quality of like customer satisfaction. Are parents happier with the process now that we've improved it? So I can imagine we're going to start to look at like different ways to save and cost savings, but as well as like quality. So,
Director Coyne.
Great, thank you. Took myself off of mute at this time. Great work around the strategic plan. Thank you for the update tonight. Question I have, Mariah, back to the equity-based budget framework, and I've sat in on several meetings related to the equity-based budget work, and I think it's great that the district's moving in that direction. I have found that as I talk to members of the community, I say, hey, we have this comprehensive equity index that we're using, and I find I don't have necessarily the tools to go deeper beyond that. How are we looking to kind of explain all that goes into that comprehensive equity index, I guess, to the community so people understand how that allocation looks? Because I know people find it intriguing, and I think most find it, it's good that we're moving in that direction. But is there more detail that the district's thinking about in terms of kind of providing in terms of how that allocation is determined?
Yeah, tonight is a brief introduction to the strategy and the work we've done so far. Obviously, we started over a year and a half ago, so quite a lot of work has gone into it, working with our internal work group as well as the partnership with educational resource strategies as well. So yeah, as we dive into all the different strategic plan areas, once we do all that, then we'll have more engagement and information to go out there. And we also keep the board directors updated as well as the all administrators, and we get a lot of continuous feedback. We're getting feedback during this budget process as well. So there's a lot of different inputs going in, and we'll continue to develop that and expand and provide more information.
And the superintendent can expand more?
I think actually Director Coyne is making me think about our visit to Clark Elementary, and there were some questions about how we allocate resources based on need. So Clark has a lot of high needs opportunities to be able to meet and deliver on. So I do think that maybe what Director Coyne might be thinking about, as certainly I was okay, get a refresher on sort of the top bullet points that can help with, communicating out to the community what this work is. It has been a lot of work and is supported by a lot of data. So I think it'd be good to get the high level summary that we can start to communicate to others and equip the board and others for that.
And Superintendent, I'm glad you mentioned that actually, because that is what spurred the question. And I really liked your response actually that you gave to the Clark community related to this. Would you mind sharing some of those aspects? I think it resonated well with me, and I think it did with others in the room too.
I think I said, although now it's like 2 days ago, I was running from one meeting to another and then trying to get home. I think I just said it's an opportunity to look at where the highest needs are for our students, in particular, first anchoring on, the economic backgrounds that make up the community. And then there's other measures that track with that. So being able to say that we were able to forward plan for that based on the demographics, being predictable what those needs might be, but being able to flex to that over time. But that we have actually intuitively, and I think not only because of this board, but prior administration, I think already derived our way into, mostly a very, very good model because they had the intuitive nature of where the needs were.
Thank you.
Director Mullings.
So first, thank you for bringing back the connection between the strategic plan and our policies. I always, want to make sure that we're being very clear the strategic plan doesn't stand on its own. It's a way that we see progress in the policies as laid out. So thank you for bringing that back. It's awesome. The second point I will make is on the continuous improvement piece. It almost brings me to tears as a green belt to see that application here, being part of the conversations over the last several years, being a user of resources in the district. I know for me, it's always been really important. Are we looking at how the people who use our systems, our processes, how they engage with our buildings, that we just need to mature in general, the processes we have, and make sure we're looking at them from how people use them versus maybe what's convenient for us to display or how our internal processes work. So really excited to see the continuous improvement piece come to life. I think the last piece on the equity-based budgeting framework, I'll go back to what I was talking about before, is our opportunity to be a part of this community discussion, really one of concern around behaviors in our school and the IMS community. And that conversation that the IMS PTSA put on brought in both the police chief, I almost called the superintendent of police, the police chief for Issaquah, as well as the district attorney responsible for youth.
Chief prosecutor of
Chief prosecutor for juvenile crime.
juvenile. Thank you.
And so it was, a really good conversation to talk about many things, including if you look at the long arc of behaviors and even crimes by juveniles. If you look at the long arc, we're significantly down from where we were 20 years ago, but also an acknowledgement that there's still challenges that exist every day. So it was a good conversation. A couple things that came to light. One, I mentioned earlier, which is about, I think we have an opportunity to refresh what we have available to all of our students, to all of our families to report safety concerns. I think maybe that's something we should have a steady drumbeat on. There seemed to be in that conversation a real focus on very specific reports of crimes or on harassment, intimidation, and bullying, got super technical. And I think what we've made available at all of our schools is just, if you see that you have a concern, please report it and know that it will be followed up on. So I would love to just get back to that. But if I move forward, one of the things that maybe was the most satisfying is to be able to sit in that room and hear the administrators of that building talk beautifully and very confidently about the differentiated staffing and resources already provided within their building. And that was a direct result of the work you're talking about here, the work we've done for many years. And it was just super gratifying to see the line go from what we talk about in this boardroom to concerns our community was sharing, but to a set of building administrators just super confident in what they were doing and why they were doing it. They had already been provided with the broad set of resources under the MTSS model to include multiple kinds of professionals, and that was an enhancement on previous systems. And so I probably would say, just based on this work, sometimes you wonder if that is going all the way through to the end line. And I think in that conversation, for me, it was just really clear that what you're talking about in some of this work, what we've been talking about in getting resources to where need is happening in real life. And it was just a pretty proud moment. Obviously, do we have work to do? Yes. Do we still have young people who still make bad choices each day? Yes. But to see that just the clarity in that occasion for me was fantastic.
Director Gallinger.
I finally get to go. No, I meant like I raised my hand first. She just didn't see it. I'm joking. Hey, I am so grateful for the update and for equity-based funding, because that's been a plea of the board for a really long time. I think as you get ready to socialize this, though, I think it's also really important to say what it's not. And this board has been very clear about what equity is to us. And what equity is to us is having the really high standards that we uphold in this school district and driving support so that every student can reach those standards. What equity is not for our district is lowering the bar so everyone has the same, higher likelihood of crossing that bar. And so I think that's really important that we share what equity means to this board and this district and how that transcends and translates into equity-based budgeting framework. What it's also not taking away any sort of core funding from any one of our schools. This is really about driving additional supports and additional dollars and additional staff members to support our students in their journey to success. So while I agree that it's super important to report out on this and provide a succinct way you explain it, I think it's also going to be an important part of our story, because someone that's just tuning in, that hasn't been part of this decade-long journey we've been on for equity, may not connect all the dots. And I think we've learned that through these past bond campaigns where we have half the people in our schools who weren't here in 2015 when it was all about how impacted our schools were. And then they're like, wait, why are you guys talking about overcrowding? Like, well, because we've been talking about it actually for a really long time. And then we got interrupted with this whole COVID thing. So please, that's my plea, is that whenever you do that, that we have those important parts about what it's not, because I don't want it to be distorted by anyone in our community, even staff, by saying like, oh, well, that's because we're taking away from such and such, because we're not. And you're not. The second thing I would say is when I look back at what the strategic plan, the two goals for under this one of organizational effectiveness, when you're doing your lean processes and, the goal was develop a continuous improvement cycle throughout the organization. Now that you're kind of further into it, do you have a sense on, gosh, our goal is that we have 5% of our central office staff or administrative staff or whatever. Is there any sort of like true target you're trying to get to, or do companies have any sort of thresholds by which they know, like, when we hit this threshold, we really feel like it really takes off? Meaning, because you do like 5 people for your 2,200 employees, that's not going to do much. So have you guys gotten a better sense on where the destination is or what the goals are? Because if you do, now that you're this far in, those would be helpful points to report out. Because otherwise it just seems like, oh, that's cute. We found a process we're doing, but we want to know, how does it make meaning and translate into impact?
So I'll be interested to get a debrief from Laura Carmichael after she's gone through her training, which is kind of our next step. But I can tell you that for me, the goal set is for every department, every building to have the training and know-how to go through a process, to go through their own it's not necessarily every building needs to have X amount of process improvement initiatives that they've gone through. But the goal for me is everybody in those areas knows how to go through an initiative. If they've spotted something that needs improvement, or they believe needs improvement, that they've been given the tools to look at it in that way and drive a new and efficient process. So that's how I see it. And that like I said, every department, however we define that, every building has a way to put something forward instead of just suffering under the inefficient process, to say, okay, we know now, we have those tools, we have the people that are experts in the building, we can go to them and we can run through something and see if we can improve this process.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Thank you. And it is actually good to hear the progress on the strategic plan in each goal area. So I look forward to continued discussions on those.
Thank you.
Up next, we have legislative matters.
That was quick. Just couple items. The special education funding bill that came from the Senate that is now in the State House and the MSOX bill are both in the Appropriations Committee. In the House, I think from our discussions on Day of the Hill, we understand that there's going to be some negotiation then on what the ultimate funding looks like. So there's not a whole lot to update there. There was public hearing a few days ago on the bills, but no other updates than that. Interestingly, though, the eminent domain bill 5142 actually passed out of the House committee yesterday with an amendment, which is very interesting. And the amendment to the bill essentially says that a school district would not need to offer a piece of property that they purchased, well, I shouldn't say purchased, they obtained and purchased through eminent domain. They would not have to offer that back to the original seller if there has been an effort to develop the property, go out to the public for a vote for funding for the property, or if it's included in the district's capital plans, a building on the property. So I think that kind of puts a lot of our anxiety to rest about that bill. And that's how it's passed out of committee at this point. And I would imagine if it passes, that's how it will. That's the form we'll see it in. I see the superintendent wants to say something along those lines.
Yes, thank you. So on to add to your point on the finance, we're reviewing both House and Senate versions just to see what those implications are and taking that into account. And we'll use that as part of our updates to the full board in the April budget, next update on the budget. That was redundant, but we'll the next budget update for the board. And we also note that future, as the weeks progress, we'll get more finite on what those implications are. I appreciate those updates and just appreciate your work and the board's work on really aligning around the big three, although transportation sort of fell off, but the special education funding, but also MSOC costs are included in both. Although I think the Senate version is a little bit stronger in terms of the resources provided. And then on the eminent domain, the amendment was put forward by Representative Goodman. And so I know that Martin Turney has been working to make sure that some of those details were included. And I appreciate, we didn't talk about this part from the legislative day on the Hill, but President Moraldo was able to speak to Senator Hasegawa's staff about the implications. So that I think that certainly helped to know what the implications might be. There was another amendment language that we had not been sort of thinking and sort of advising about, which was also including that it would be excluded to go back to the original sellers if the property was acquired by the district more than 1 year ago. So you wouldn't have to go back. That was added by the legislative process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just one other thing on legislative update. I also attended with the Director Coyne the 5th Legislative District Legislators Town Hall meeting on Saturday at CMMS, and the legislators there heard from the community a lot of support for additional funding for our schools. And again, we've already known this from our 5th legislators, but they again expressed their support for all of these measures that we're interested in. So just wanted to share that as well.
And I appreciate that the time we spent with our legislators. I feel like when I listened to that amendment, those items sound very, very familiar. So really appreciate that work. And I know that Sandy Hayes from North Shore has also been working this issue from the kind of the northern east side perspective. So it sounds like that there was some combined agreement on that. I guess any big updates nationally, I'm trying to think. Oh, there might have been the dissolution of the Department of Education. So that executive order is going forward. I'm sure there's probably going to be lawsuits that accompany that. So I know that there are concerns about, even if that were to stay, what the transitions are, like the transition process. So the administration may say that, yes, IDEA will go under, I think it was Health and Human Services. But what does that really look like? Who knows what that transition is? I know as somebody who's had a grant, a federal grant that was transferred from one government entity to another, that transition did not go fluidly. And so I think there are some concerns there, as well as continued concerns about federal funding overall for education and for any monies coming to the state. So that continues to be something that we're watching. NSBA is certainly having as many conversations as they can with legislators about the needs of school boards and school districts across the country. Okay, next item on the agenda is announcements and correspondence. So this is a standing opportunity for the board to share any announcements or correspondence that are not listed on the agenda. Seeing none, we'll move to the next agenda item, calendar and future agenda topics. We do have a few items, and I will definitely ask for the superintendent to support as we try to go through all these to make sure I've captured it. The first thing is that the board will need to review and identify topics for future meeting agendas and other special calendar items, as well as schedule special meetings and work sessions. So that's what this portion is. So it looks like we need to schedule a school board candidate workshop. And I believe that people that are going to be on the ballot are not usually the ones to do that because it's pretty awkward. But that leaves actually 4 people that would be available to do that. But I, as president, would really prefer not to.
I'm happy to.
I can do it too. I can volunteer for that.
Okay, it's great to actually have 2 people, so that's fantastic. So if you that Director Taylor and Director Coyne have done that. Now, I know there was some discussion about taking a look at the handbook prior to that meeting to ensure that we any necessary changes.
Yep.
I've got changes.
It is helpful to go through those changes. I know that was a role that was last played by former directors. So it's great that we have the 2 people that replace them stepping up to actually do this, maybe.
I'll take a look at it.
Still fresh in our minds, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll take a look at that. Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to take a look.
Okay, so so Emily will email you the Word document so that you can highlight changes.
All I do in
and
my life.
track changes. There you go. The second is board engagement with high school student panels. Now, these events will have 2 board members, not 3. So without a quorum, they are not public meetings. Right now, you each have the schedule, or you each have potential schedules of that before you. It looks like April 10th for Issaquah High School, that myself and Director Taylor will be available at the bright and early time of 8:45. You don't. I thought I handed you a set.
That's actually the piece of paper now I realize was for you.
But she said it wasn't.
Yeah, but now it's
Oh,
here.
it absolutely was. There's a second one that will be coming. And then April 24th for Liberty. Right now we have Director Coyne and Director Gallinger. So we are still open on Gibson Eck. There are 3 of us, it looks like, and I don't have Director Gallinger's schedule, so I don't know if he's also included in that. So who wants to not be included?
I just would like to participate in Skylines. So
Okay.
that's and I won't. And I see I've signed up for Liberties now on April 24th, which is great, but I do want to participate in Skylines.
So when is Skyline scheduled or potentially scheduled?
Director Moraldo, I don't have it in front of me. Could we run through all of them really quick, just so I know? Because then I might if I'm on one, I'd pull myself off potentially on Gibson Eck. I don't even know if I'm on Gibson Eck, but.
Okay, so currently you are on April 24th at 1 to 2 p.m. along with me, or along with Director Gallinger at Liberty High School.
Okay.
So we were all available then for Skyline.
And when is the Skyline date? Let's see.
It's April 25th. And it was either 8:45 to 9:45 or 9:40 to 10:40. And so
Director Gallagher saying he wants
that one.
that one. So we need one more person to say they would prefer that.
I'd prefer that too.
Okay, you prefer Sky. Okay.
And then for Gibson X, since
I've got good
Director Mullings.
Gibson Neck.
So Director Mullings, since you haven't done any other, so having you as part of that Gibson X one.
Yes.
The 23rd.
And we will ultimately just pick one of the hour slots, correct?
Correct.
Okay, yep. So I'm okay for Gibson Neck. If someone else is ready.
And then-
to do that one.
And then probably AJ or myself.
Yeah, I can't do the 23rd.
Okay, then I will take on that one. And that way everyone except for Director Taylor has one or two.
And which time slot, Director Mullings and President Moraldo, do you prefer for Gibson? Because it looks like there's the two that you're both available for.
I'm fine with either one. I should get my phone out just in case something's changed since I filled this out. Now I have no other items for that day.
Maybe April 23rd, right? So my preferred is, I say it's such a mystery. Why don't we do earlier than later, the 9:50 to 11?
What was that? 9:50 to 11?
Yes, the
Perfect.
earlier one, the 9:50 to 11.
Would you like me to recap it all?
Yes, please.
Now that you're all locked in?
Yes.
So, on April 10th at 8:45 to 9:45 at Issaquah High School, it'll be President Moraldo and Director Taylor. I'm going in sequential order date-wise. April 23rd will be at Gibson Neck from 9:50 to 11 with President Moraldo and Director Mullings. On April 24th at Liberty High School from 1 to 2 p.m., Director Taylor and Director Coyne and Director Gallagher. And then the last one will be Skyline, which is April 25th from 8:45 to 9:45 a.m. with Director Gallagher and Director Coyne. Excellent job managing all the variations of these options. And thank you to Emily for helping with that too.
Yes, thank you.
Emily's a whiz.
Oh,
Great.
I have this one apparently. So what I did wrong. There. Now for the town hall with the IMS IHS community, although open to anybody throughout the district, but it will be located in that area. It looks like we have availability on May 12th from 5:30 to 7. Has there been any changes to that since you originally filled out the form? So then we would have, the location would be the Issaquah Middle Schools or Issaquah Middle School Commons or like, so just Issaquah Middle School would be appropriate. From 5:30 to 7 p.m. I'd be looking for a motion.
I move to calendar the board town hall at IMS at Issaquah Middle School on May the 12th at 5:30 to 7 p.m.
Second.
Okay, any other discussions? Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Guys have it. So that is the second thing we've accomplished. We discussed the high school graduation. One thing that I did note is that I do not think we have a location yet for our superintendent evaluation. And so I know that in the past, it's always been initially it was at Suzanne's house. Last year it was at Director Gallinger's house. I can do it at my home, but I have more people that are like in the house in the evenings and not a good private area that would fit all 5 of us.
What's the date?
Well, I'm always happy to host, but that May 1st date, I'm no longer available.
Okay.
I would be happy to host a future event, but things are a little wild in my household this spring with my son graduating. So lots going on, but future, I would do it. Just not this year.
Okay. So,
And then Director Taylor, the other date's June 4th.
so looking at the fact that it's really awkward to have somebody host something they don't attend. Let's pull out the old calendars. Is there anything surrounding those days, i.e. Wednesday or Friday? And so you're gone Wednesday through Friday. What about a May 5th Monday? So are we still available on May 5th?
Yes.
Oh, it looks like yes.
Yeah, I could do that.
So we will shift that. So I actually will need a motion.
And I could host both.
What do you?
for this
It's
year.
not written down here at all.
Ooh, do we have a location for both?
Yeah, I said I could host both.
You,
this year.
okay. May 5th, June 4, both 6 to 9. I move we calendar the superintendent evaluation meetings for May 5th, 2025 and June 4th, 2025, both at 6 to 9 p.m. at the home of Director Gallinger.
Second.
Any other discussions on that? Oh, yes. And students, you do not have to stay for this part. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? I hear none. The ayes have it. So thank you for doing that. So that will be, that motion supersedes the last motion. And is that a bad, I shouldn't have said that?
No, we actually just got rid of a conflict I didn't realize. So May 5th is great.
Perfect. I do want to say that I need to probably find out from Director Gallinger how to send out the survey for you all. Given that date, might be a little bit more flexible, but if we could aim for return to me by April 27th, so that gives me time to consolidate the input. Also, that would be superintendent, any feedback you would like to provide to the board so I can have it ready for that meeting by the 27th also would be helpful. And so I'll work with Director Gallinger on making sure that gets out to you. Hopefully sometime this week would be preferred. So you have plenty of time. I know he's like an entire month. I know you're going to do it on the 27th, but I'll give it to you ahead of time. Other than that, I think a future agenda topic that came up was a discussion around an emergency monitoring of OE 12. And so maybe a discussion around that, and then we can look at when we can calendar that into our topic, into our agendas.
Yeah, thank you, President Ronaldo. That's me requesting this. So I think that I have some concerns when our policy is there intended to drive equity and support students equitably across our system? And in it is not a mandate to make every student take an AP class when they graduate high school or by the time they graduate high school, or to take an IB class by the time they graduate high school. And so I do think the board needs to have further discussion with the administration when one of our comprehensive high schools has moved to mandate such. So I would like to bring that up for discussion because I think that that is what us as representatives of the community need to do and need to hold the system accountable for, and to be able to have open dialogue about that. Because I think that is a deviation from board policy. So I would request to add that to a future agenda to be determined by our superintendent and President Raldo and myself through agenda planning.
Okay. Any other comments from the board? Okay, and you said clarifying.
I do have a. So as described, I guess as described, are you saying it's a gap in the policy?
No.
And emergency monitoring to ensure we are in compliance, that the district is in compliance with OE 12.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
My question would be, would you want a full monitoring or a partial monitoring of a specific portion of the OE 12?
Oh, that's a great question. I don't know what kind of discretion we have. So obviously just the ones pertaining towards the coursework and grading access. So we could pull up which one I'm talking about.
I think it would help if we had focus on what areas we had concern so that the staff wasn't spending time monitoring something we weren't concerned about.
I don't think we have the new one on our website.
No, it's still all the old
That's a problem.
ELs.
So I can't tell you which one it is because it's not on our website.
Yes, that is a major project we're making a plan for to migrate, and we're enlisting in some help in that one. I think I heard two things. This is one of my clarifying questions, which is also, I think part of what you're saying is related to instructional program, which is where the board did make modifications this past year. I believe it was probably in like an October meeting where we found the last version because there were several reads of now called OE 14. And then I also heard OE 12 as part of the grading part. So I wasn't sure if there was additional intent there.
Yeah, thank you. I might mean OE 14. So I'm sorry. Is that one updated?
No,
Nope,
because it's
not
a
up to par.
holistic, it is an important and big process to explain the migration well, and to then have all the policies connected to each other. Thank you for pointing that out. And the archive of that is, I think it was the second October meeting. So we went to the board archives. Let me go do that as well. So we can look
So
at it.
would you feel comfortable for the president and superintendent to review which OE is appropriate to address your concern and allow, certainly you can email me more information, but I do think what you bring up is important for the board to monitor. So an emergency monitoring of that, we can get that on the agenda. Since there's only one meeting in April, I don't know if we'd be able to make it in April and then may have to be the May board meeting. Would that be sufficient?
Sure. I think it would be 14.3, 14.4, 14.5, 14.6,
Okay. So I think we will gear that towards the first meeting in May. So if we can add that.
I would respectfully request that we actually look at the end of May. There's actually no monitoring report scheduled for that meeting right now.
Oh, and the first meeting in May, is that quite extensive from what I recall?
Yeah. So I think there's more room also given that, but also there was no other monitoring reports, no monitoring reports overall at the May
Okay.
29th meeting.
Why don't we do that then? Be able to provide it ample time for staff to go through and do the monitoring that's necessary. So we will do that. Any other items, future agenda topics that the board would like to consider? I will be thinking about either at our fall retreat or sometime in some of our work studies to really talk about artificial intelligence and what it is that we're doing as a district. I think it's important for us to kind of have a heads up. And I'm really interested in the opportunity to move education as a whole forward. So I know I won't be here long enough to see that to fruition, but this is such a great opportunity to make strides in doing something more. So we've had discussions about what we're doing at our high schools programmatically, and I think that that would also be another discussion about what's the appropriate usage of AI, how are we using it for, too much of the discussion earlier to ensure that our teachers are able to do more, right? To be a kind of a support to them, as well as how do we train students to use a tool that will be part of their environment as they move forward. So a strict, you can't use AI policy doesn't work because we need to actually be training them on how to. So I think there's a lot of discussion, and I'll see where we can fit that in prior to my leaving the board.
I have two more.
Okay.
I spent the hour before our executive session with our students and with Marcel Hauser and Jason Morris. So thank you to their work. And we came up with what we believe is a ready for board to do first read on OE 17. And we would like to place that on the April agenda. So should there be more modifications by the board, that gives us 3 meetings to hopefully get to second read and approval before graduation. And so I would love to have more flexibility to do that. I really appreciate Superintendent and her team for weighing in on it. And I think that we're in a place where both the students and staff feel comfortable with, but they both will touch it over the next, like the students committed to having it back to Emily by next Tuesday, and you have the red line version currently that's quite more red than anything else, to get a sense, and you can sort of follow how that goes. And then we let the students know that a superintendent and team would then have a final touching of it before it comes to the board for review.
Great. That definitely has been on our topic of when was it going to be ready, because we definitely want that to happen sequentially. Thank you for that. And then your last one
is we are just moments away from WASDA opening up their call for proposals for presentations for the next annual conference. And my recommendation is that we present on how we do our school improvement plans. And so I was looking for head nods for support of the board to have me submit a presentation on that would include staff and principal and board members, of course, our superintendent.
It has been a while since we've done a district presentation, so absolutely, I think that would be great. I think we have such robust discussions around them, and so I would love to be able to share out how we do that.
Seen enough head nods to. Okay.
Yep.
Those are my.
Okay. Any other items? Hearing none and having gone through the entire agenda, our business is concluded.